Guys, real quick, before we move to the next speaker, I wanted you guys to just realize a couple of little tips, I think, on the side. Both of those guys that just spoke, Corey Muscara and Casey Smith, both top of their field in college and also in the private sector. If you notice, both of those guys, they led off by saying, I don't know it all. I don't have all the answers, right? So we go back to the scarcity and abundant mindset we're talking about. The scarcity guys, I have all the answers. I don't need anybody's help, right? The guys that live out of abundance, willing to learn from others, right? The guys that live out of scarcity every day, they will say, I need to look good. If I'm gonna succeed, I gotta look good. Guys living out of abundance, if you look good and I look good, we all succeed, right? If you succeed and I succeed, we all succeed. The next guy I wanna bring up, because we just had one guy, again, at the private sector, he says how he develops guys. We're gonna have another college guy, Wake Forest, assistant head coach, Bill Cilento. And one of the things I wanna talk about real quick with the network we were talking about before and how to build this network is that Bill recruited one of my guys about 8 years ago, Adam Cesari, that was playing for me in high school. I started a relationship with him then. And, you know, obviously if you work with guys from different states and stuff, high school kids with like the travel team that I was running, they were so spread out. And so without a network, these guys are all doing whatever it is they're doing, and I have no network to help them, and I can only see them when I see them, right? So my friend over here, I was living in Brooklyn, New York. I had a kid that was 13 years old, his name's Tone Morales, right? Really tools out player, good kid. I had no way of coaching him off the field and training with him, but I had a network. I had Chris Colabello over there. He's in Massachusetts, kid lives out in Massachusetts. Guys connect the dots. Tone ends up committing to Wake Forest. He's at Wake now. If I don't have any network with what's going on over there, I'm relying on Tone Morales, the kid, to give me his own perspective on what's going on in college, right? Oh, I don't know about the feedback I'm getting. I don't know if I'm going to be playing. I don't know if I'm going to be starting this and that. But I have the network. And so the first thing, Chris, saw Bill here today. Hey, what's up with Tone? How's he doing over there? He's a freshman. Oh, man, he's doing this and that. It kind of explains and breaks it down, right? But I think that's one of the key important things is having that when we're talking about why colleges and private sector guys sometimes clash, is that there's no communication after the guy goes there, right? So that's helpful. But guys, I'm gonna bring up Bill Cilento. This guy's, he works with all the hitters at Wake, and I wanna make sure, got it, brother, here you go. This guy's got a couple of guys this year coming up. Check out, keep an eye out for Nick Kurtz. He could go top 5 position player, maybe. I don't know. He has a good year. Other guys.
Makes you look real smart, doesn't he?
Yeah. And so he's going to give you kind of some insight on what he does with hitters at the college level. And again, private guys, they got all day to focus on the hitter, right? They can sit for a half hour and have a conversation. This guy's got different challenges. He's not only working with 20 hitters, he's got to recruit guys. And he's got to have meetings. And he's got to have, end of the season meetings and all that stuff. So it's a different thing. But give it up for Bill Cilento real quick.
All right. Well, first of all, I guess I got to start by telling everybody, if those guys don't know anything, I know zero, right? Those two guys were awesome that started this thing. Trying to give you something meaningful as I thought about it, and I'm listening to those guys talk, it's kind of taking where I'm going to go kind of, all the way around. And I think one of the most sacred things from a private sector, from a college program, or even from a pro organization that we can do, one of the most sacred things we can do is create an environment that has certain values to it, right? Game value system, right? The number one value system the number one most important thing that we have all of our guys, we train all of our guys winning baseball is we need to be able to get on base. We need to be able to get on base. And I challenge our guys, no matter if they're Nick Kurtz, Seaver King, who's one of those other high-end guys that they're talking about, how do we teach a guy to get on base every single time? And I think both of these guys talked about the most crucial piece to that, right? And that most crucial piece is the strike zone, right? And what the strike zone is and how we can dominate the strike zone. And I think there's a bunch of different layers to how that happens. But one of the ways that I think we've had some success going about it is teaching guys to understand what they do well, what the pitcher's going to try and do, and how we can stay in the strike zone and dominate in that fashion. So I'm very fortunate at Wake Forest. Moose talked about, Moose is one of the most competitive people that you've ever met, right? I think you got that came across right here. Well, every single day at Wake Forest, every single time we scrimmage, one of the things that Moose does every single time is he calls pitches. Do you think Moose calls pitches that are going to allow the hitter to have success very often? So very easily, we're able to identify what our guy doesn't do well. And guess what? If you don't do it, you're going to get jugulared by Moose relentlessly, right? You can't hit a breaking ball. What's going to happen? You're going to see breaking ball after breaking ball after breaking ball. Can't hit it. You can't hit a ride fastball. What are they going to do? He's going to ride fastballs at you all the time. You can't stay in the strike zone. He ain't going to throw you a strike, much like Tommy White in the World Series. It's just what we're going to do. So I guess what I've been challenged to, one of the things I've had to change and think differently about is how do I institute that when we're not scrimmaging? When we're scrimmaging, it's easy because Moose is going to do that for me. He's going to challenge me in every single way. He's going to challenge me in my preparation for every single hitter to make sure they understand what they don't do well and how do we make an adjustment so we can handle that. How do we do that away from that? Right? There's all against competition that wasn't as well prepared as they probably should be. We'd be really, really good, and I'd feel great. But then we get to the guys, and all you guys know this at the big league level on down through, that have really good pitching coaches, right? That have really good defensive strategies, and we wouldn't have any success. We wouldn't have any success, right? But I wouldn't adapt it. I would just sit there and go, oh, we'll go to the next one, right? And it took me failing enough to understand that I got to make the environment so hard for our guys, and make them understand how to make adjustments and make that the win in this thing that we can have the success. So we can have success, right? I learned that again this year in Omaha. You guys probably watched. We're in Omaha, right? What happened? We went to Omaha, the wind's howling in. We hit homers, right? We played a small ballpark. We hit homers. Wind's howling in. You're facing Paul Skeens, Ty Floyd, some of those guys at LSU, right? Stanford, they ran them out there too, right? You go down the list, you're facing guy after guy after guy. And it's an environment that's really, really hard to score runs. Well, I spent all year, we didn't suicide squeeze one time in the entire year last year, right? We lost the game 2-0 in extra innings to LSU, right? 2-0 to send us home. When everything in me, my instinct, knew that we had to call a suicide squeeze. But I took the safe route and we called a safety squeeze in a first and third situation. To their credit, Trey Morgan made an unbelievable play. Unbelievable play, right? One of the greatest college baseball games ever played. But I did a poor job of creating an environment that made our guys adaptable enough, had enough tools on their tool belt, did a poor job so that when we needed it, the biggest moment in the biggest game, I, not the player, I had enough confidence to call that play to win ourselves a game, right? A valuable lesson I learned. What do you think is going to happen this year? We're going to spend a lot more time learning how to put more tools on our tool belt and utilize those things, even when I know that it may not be a situation that we need to do it, because we need to do it for the long term. So getting back to it, the challenge, creating an environment that's super, super tough, that your guys are going to learn to fail a lot in. But then when they fail, they're going to learn how to get to the other side. Because here's the deal, right? Everybody talks about confidence and confidence in your players, right? And you having belief in them. It matters. It does, very much so. But what matters more is them believing in themselves. And in the biggest moments, if they're not challenged at a really, really, really high level along the way, in the biggest moments, they won't have that true belief in themselves. They won't play free, right? So my challenge to all of you guys again, how tough can we make the environment that they're going to learn how to win in, so they're going to learn how to make adjustments. How tough can we make that environment? They're going to learn how to win in, and they're going to celebrate the shit out of it when it's done. And when they sell it, hold on, Moose is going to get, you got to wait a minute, man.
I'm going to pump your tires because yourself, it's really good that you won't say.
When you celebrate it, when they learn that, you'll celebrate everything. All the little things in this. You'll celebrate them to a degree that it'll become your culture, it'll become your environment. You understand that? It's so important. I think it's something I failed. I hope that you guys can learn a lesson from. I failed as a coach because I wanted to be successful so bad, I made it easy for them instead of making it harder. When we struggle, we got punched in the mouth, make it easier, right? So they get confidence. You can't win that way. That's not being a winner. That's just changing the game so you get a positive outcome, right? The goal is to win at the highest level. The goal for us, win a national championship, right? It's not go to Omaha. It's not go to a regional, super regional. All those things are great. You want to do those things, yeah. But the goal is to win a national championship. How do you win a national championship? You do hard-ass shit every day, and you get really good at doing it. You understand when you fail, and you figure out how not to fail. Right? That's simple. Go ahead, Moose. You want to add to this?
Yeah, I want. He's 100% right. That's what he does, but he's missing something about himself that is very key to this working. See, Billy is the most consistent human being I know. This is very important here, guys. Yes, he wants him to do hard shit every day, but he runs 5 miles every day. He throws BP every day. He does the scouting report like a savage every day. He's the same guy every day. He breaks everyone's balls and has a good time every day. He does, it's the consistency. He doesn't tell them how great they are. He makes everything hard, but he does it in a way where they're having fun doing it. And he doesn't lie to them. That's why it works. He never deviates from that. At the end of the day, he's super objective. Did we win or did we lose? And he takes accountability. Never puts it on the players. That's why they buy in. You wouldn't say that about yourself. That's the truth.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that's what coaching is, right? I think that's what coaching is. I think it's, your kids got to know you love them. Your kids got to know you care about them, right? But your kids, if you're doing it with the right kids, if you're doing it at the right level, your kids want to struggle because they want to be the best that they can be. They want to struggle, right? They want to figure out what they can't do. And I think you have to do that. And yeah, does that consistency to that matter? It does. It does, because they know they can trust you, right? It gets back to what Casey was talking about a little bit, right? If they don't trust you, all you're doing is rolling out the balls, right? And you're collecting a paycheck, right? If they don't trust you, you don't get anything, right? And I think consistency gets trust. Consistency gets trust. And the simplest way I think about consistency, just talking about what Moose is like when I started coaching, you know, I played at a small little Division I. I played at this place called Siena College. You guys know, it snowballs, man. It's like you play 10 home games a year. It's cold. It's all those things. But I played for a guy, and Tony Ross, same guy that Moose played for a little bit, and you know, and that guy used to say to me all the time, I'm not going to ask you to do something I wouldn't do myself, right? And that's what consistency really is, right? I can't ask our players to do something I wouldn't do myself every single day, and I think I try and live by that, and that came from him. So yeah, I appreciate Moose chiming in with that, but I'll just finish by saying, like, that's my challenge to all you guys. That's my challenge to anybody who's in this game, right? Is build up some trust. Then build up some trust so you can create an environment where you really, really challenge your players on a day-to-day basis so they understand and learn what winning is. When they understand and learn what winning really, really is, they'll start to celebrate things that most people overlook because they're trying to have a certain bat speed number, they're trying to create an exit velocity number, they're trying to throw a ball a certain velocity, right? They'll start to celebrate things that they understand create a winning environment. They'll start to celebrate looking foolish, but trying something that's a little bit ridiculous, right? They'll start to celebrate that stuff. And I think that's what we all can do as stewards of the game, right? As part of the game. If we can create an environment that spreads, all of a sudden our baseball goes away from that zero-sum game to the fun product we all know and want it to be. Make sense? Fair enough? Me and Moose. So look, so I'm gonna pull Moose up here again right now. Moose is me and Moose got to get out of here in a second. We had a little snafu with our rental car. Long story with old Mick man, our operations guy. So we got to head back to the airport because we got to get to the hotel because Moose got to speak again, and we got a couple things we want to do. So, any questions? Any questions? You want to open up for questions for just us two so we can squeeze out of here? Is that all right?
Yeah, for sure. By the way, one point that I want to bring up, but I know there's a lot of colleges and college coaching staffs in here. One of the things that when we look at guys in high school that are looking to project at certain levels, and you check their academic profile, and then you see if their skill set and the metrics add up, and they can play at the speed or whatever. They're going to go. This guy's going to go to Ivy Leagues. Maybe he's an ACC guy. Maybe he's a low D1 guy. Whatever. And you're trying to do that. Once you go and take the high school guy to the campus, whether it's a team camp or you're just walking around or whatever it is on one of those camps that they have now, the way recruiting is, I found that different colleges do their recruiting stuff a lot different. What I like about how they do it, and if you notice, if people have shitty cultures at their college, they hesitate to put current players with the tour of the guy. Or they'll put the guy that's the everyday starter that's been there for 3 years and he's having a great time to walk all the kids around and go, man, I love it here. When I go there, they had guys walking around, players walking around that weren't everyday starters that hardly got in. And you ask them, how do you like it here? I fucking love it. Fucking great, man. This environment's great. I feel like I'm a part of something, everything else. That's a big tell when you're talking about also when everybody's looking to get their kids to an environment that they're going to excel in college, right? Is that checking their personality and making sure their personality matches up with the coaching staff personality, right? Because coaches all have filters, right? And these guys, they're going to sell you on why you should go to college rather than sign a pro contract. They're going to tell you why their program is better than somebody else's program and how it's the greatest. Players usually don't have those type of filters. They'll just tell you, I hate it here. It sucks. I'm about to transfer until tomorrow. Or, right, they'll say, dude, I love it, man. These guys are honest. They're tough, but they're honest. I value the honesty. So I was just trying to like show why I really gravitate towards their kind of culture of letting the players kind of dictate and tell the guys, and they're not afraid to put the guys out there because it's all real. But you guys, anybody have questions?
Yeah, about culture, I have one thing about culture just before Timmy goes here. Like, one of the things that's super important to our culture, Moose talked about it, I talked about it, is winning, right? We talked about that, right? And what you find is winners like other winners, right? So if you track it and you put up standings and you make it about winning throughout everything you do, all of a sudden, more winners are attracted, right? So that's one of the unique things, or not unique things, but one of the great things about how we've gone about it, and just in my relationship with you, is every single time we've got a talented kid. There's plenty of talent out there. It's we've gotten a winner associated with it because of that environment piece.
It's important. Guys, Timmy, you had something?
Question for you. Timmy, what's up? I haven't seen you forever. You guys talked about competitive environment. What's your favorite game, not non-game environment that you guys create both offensively and defensively? I have one.
Well, so here, let me. I think they got to go hand in hand. I think it's really hard to just create a one offensively when you talk about it from a team perspective. So one of the things that we do most competitively is batting practice, right? And I'm not talking, we do it offensively. We chart everything that happens offensively, but we do it defensively, right? One of the things we chart every single day in batting practice is dives. How many times does a player dive on defense, right? We chart that every single day. And what's funny is your greatest winners, like your glue guys, right? The guys you talk about all the time, that single statistic, they'll win almost every single time. They'll dive more than anybody else, right? Because what they figure out is no piece is insignificant in this whole thing, right? And we talk about characteristics of winning and the sweat and those little small things, right? Maybe this little guy, right? Little redhead, right? I laugh because he's coming back to town next week. Justin Johnson. Any Royals guys in here? He's with the Royals. The Royals got better with this guy, right? And JJ was the single biggest piece that changed on our team last year, right? We had star power. We had Brock Wilken. We had Nick Kurtz. We had Rhett Lauder. We had all these guys. And this little redhead from Lehigh, or Lafayette. Where is he? Lafayette? Lafayette. Yeah, I got it wrong. This little redhead from Lafayette came in every single day, right? and brought an energy that was different because of the way he went about it. So what is the most competitive thing that I loved? I love BP just as a drill, but we use it as an offensive and defensive drill. Play as many balls live as we can. And we get super competitive on the mound. We vary pitches, right? Like we do 2 strike rounds. Like you've scouted, right? You've come and seen us, right? As a scout, we got to be a little bit frustrated, right? Because we're not getting in there and just throwing BP, right? We're spinning breaking balls in BP, right? We're throwing changeups in BP. We're not telling you what's coming in BP, right? It's not all that common on a game day when you got 35 scouts sitting up there trying to chase your guys, right? You can get your guys to buy into doing that. That's when it's fun.
And off of that, like, I think the big thing is we don't ever talk about, like, the pitchers and the hitters. Like, we're a team. Period. I think that's where things go wrong a lot. They talk about their craft as a pitcher. They talk about what they do as a hitter. Look, we throw a shot, we don't score, we don't win. It doesn't matter. Who cares? There's no egos. Another thing we talk a lot about is we want to be player-led, not coach-fed. Player-led, not coach-fed. We say it 5,000 times a day. So there's a couple little things that we do constantly. Like one thing he talks about, celebrating the little things. This is all Billy's deal. He does a thing called Modita. After every win, it's a Mike Bianco thing I think you took from him, right?
Yeah, Dan McDonald, so a couple of you.
But celebrating the success of others, right? So after every win, we have a slideshow going in our plates of guys just celebrating with the score and celebrating. That's one thing we do. Another thing we do, LOEs. Ty Blankmeyer actually started this, who's at Duke right now. I don't know if Ty's in here right now. But lack of efforts, right? So we break balls a lot, right? So, like, if a guy doesn't run a hard 90, you'll hear everyone in our dugout go, LOE, LOE, LOE. We show video. So all of our inter-squad scrimmages, live defense, batting practice, everything's on film, like football. We go into our video room and we show it. If a guy doesn't make a play or dogs something or has bad body language, the entire room the next day is LOEing him. Conversely, if a guy goes a hard 90 or makes a play to save lays out in the 6 hole and doesn't allow a guy to advance, the whole team's celebrating it. Everything is celebrated. Everything, whether it's lack of effort or getting after it, don't matter. If I get on the pitchers in a game, if like we're facing Paul Skeens and he's shoving it up our ass, right? We need some quality at bats because we have to get to the bullpen. And if we have a couple quality at bats and our pitchers aren't celebrating it, that's a problem. I'm not happy. Yes, I'm a pitching coach, but I don't care about our ERA. If I cared about our ERA, I wouldn't have gone to the smallest ballpark in the world, right?
It's like the Grand Canyon.
Games, right? So the thing I think that gets lost so often is, and you see it all over baseball, we get so skill specific in training the skill that we forget to train the sport. It's a game. It's a game. My favorite thing we do, beat the infielders. So our outfielders get out there and he'll throw BP and they're taking live reps and there's no outfield. It's just the infield out there. And the pitchers are out there like basically heckling and grandstanding. Everybody. We don't do team defense ever without the pitchers, hitters, outfielders, everybody involved. We track a winner and a loser every day. When you walk into our facility, every day they're split up in teams. And you have a winning percentage next to your name. One of our players, one of our best players this fall, was 2-22.
3-20.
3-20. Became a running joke. We pick teams all the time. He get picked last. He's like one of our best players. A lot of the games we play, he has no impact on whether he wins or loses the game. He can't impact it, right? But he's on the team and say, hey, sorry about it. You found a way to lose. You didn't find a way to win. So he stopped getting picked. He's one of our best players, right? Everything, every day, consistency. Who's a winner, who's a loser, find a way. And then you get off of like the personal aspect of it being on you. It's supporting others, finding a way. If you're a pitcher and we're not scoring any runs, pick up a damn towel. Find a towel. Do something. You know what I mean? And so that's what we talk about this all the time. You know, like we're really lucky that some of our best players or our best winners. Rhett Lauder is one of the best winners I've ever met in my life. You want to hear a cool thing about?
Why did he become the best winner? He became the best winner because he lost a lot. That dude was like 80 to 83 in high school and would find ways to win. He lost a lot, so he had to learn to fail to get to the other side.
Well, and when he came in and talked to our pitchers last year, and they were like, you know, we have some guys that like, you know, going to get drafted, whatever, and they're worried about like living up to expectations. So I had him come in and talk to everybody about how to deal with expectations because he was the ACC pitcher of the year the year before, and there only ever been one back-to-back ACC Pitcher of the Year, right? And then he had a better year the next year. So I said, Red, I want you to talk to everybody about how you handled it. And he gets in front of the room. He says, very simple. I had one goal all year, one goal. And my only goal was to outlast the starting pitcher on the other team. Because if I outlasted the starting pitcher on the other team, we won. And I outlasted the starting pitcher on the other team every single game, except when Skeens went 7 and he went 6. Or I think he went 7 and Skeens went 8. The only game all year. It's the only game that he started, we lost. It's not about that. It's about the team. And in today's world where everyone's about the NIL and the portal and what's good for them, they lose sight of it. But the funny thing is, when they're a part of it, they love it. They crave it. And when everybody in the room is speaking the same language, then it becomes a thing. I tell him to pick apart pitchers when he has tells. When they can run on guys, hey, exploit the shit out of them. Abuse them. If he's a 1-6 to the plate, run on his ass all day. Make it till he has to make a change. When hitters can't hit a changeup, hey, you're getting juggy changeup till you learn how to hit the damn thing. I don't want to hear it. First pitch to the inner squad, you're getting a combio. Sorry about it. Figure it out. But then we celebrate. If a guy finally catches a barrel on a changeup, I'm not mad he hit it, that he caught a barrel. I'm celebrating the fact that he hit the first barrel on a changeup since Vietnam. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's go, man. You just finally got off on a changeup. Let's go. About time you made an adjustment. I'm bad. And it's that way back and forth. And I think we get so blinders, like on all, like, oh, we gotta make this good, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this right. Dude, nobody cares. Did you win or lose? You know what I mean? Did you have fun doing it? That's why I love working with him. That's why I came to Wake. He's why I came to Wake. He recruited me in college, and I liked them, and I could trust them, so I came here. That's the biggest thing that I've done in my career, is I've been lucky. I only have gotten an opportunity to work with people that I love working with. And I think people lose sight of this all the time. If you don't love what you're doing and you're not excited to get there and get to work, how can you create an environment? I don't care if you're working in a facility or you're working on a team. Love for what you're doing is the ultimate. And that's how you get to flow state.
Yeah.
You got to love what you're doing. I'm going to let him talk about flow state because we got to get the rental talk.
But in all honesty, like how, I think one of the challenges if you have a facility is like, how do you create that? Like, how can you? And I mean, we don't have the answer to that. Obviously, we don't have the answer in our program. We're still learning how to do it. But like, how can you create that environment? You know, and I think that's the goal if you can do that. Like, I think you want to talk about how do you make the business side of it profitable? Because kids want to be in it. Kids want. I mean, you look at it at our place right now. We're so fortunate. We have so many of those guys that come back and spend all off season there. It's crazy. So. What other questions?
Any other questions wait before they leave, guys? Anybody? There's no stupid question here. If you work with real young guys, if you work with big leaguers, anything is good here. You're not going to get judged if you don't want to answer guys a question.
Go ahead.
So you were talking about coaches and hitters. Do you approach more or weaknesses or?
Yeah, so I think you need to know what both are. Like, you know, Moose talked a lot about like how he goes about attacking a hitter, right? He starts fastball away fast. Well, we reverse engineer that on the other side, right? Like, I need to know what our guy hits well and what our guy doesn't, right? And I think you can figure out pretty quickly when you know who you're facing and what they do well, based on the pitching coach, what's going to happen, right? So I think if I do my job best, I can prepare my guys so they're not surprised by anything that's going to happen throughout the course of a game. Right? That's why I pour through the video. That's why I do it. Right? So what do? I try and figure out what our guy doesn't do well. I try and figure out if that guy is capable of doing it across the, you know, in that pitcher-hitter confrontation. If he is, I'm going to spend a lot of time preparing my guy for that because he's going to see a lot of it. Right? And as Moose talked about, it's not only seeing a lot of it, it's not only being able to do something with it. Maybe sometimes they can't do anything with it, but maybe they can take it, right? And we can get back to that strike zone and dominate the strike zone. Right? So they can get in a position where they can handle something. And then I got to teach them adjustments, how to make, you know, I saw this a long time ago. It's an old ABCA thing, like hitters, like, you know, good hitters make adjustments. Great hitters, they're able to make adjustments within that bat. You like watch the best hitters in the game. You watch the best college hitters. Like, they're going to make adjustments in the at bat. They're going to make a pitch to pitch, right? That's the guy he don't want to call a pitch against.
Those guys hate them.
Tommy White, like you don't want to call a pitch
Tommy
against.
White's tough. Like we've had some success facing Tommy White, and he got us when it mattered most because he makes freaking adjustments. When you make tons of adjustments, it's really hard because if you make a mistake, even if you call the right pitch, you're done. And to answer your question, what I don't like is when guys sleepwalk takes. When they do takes and like you make like a bastard pitch and they're just like, because I don't know if he was fooled. I don't know if he wasn't on. You know what I mean? If he's on time, and I'll give you a great example of this. You talked about Joe Panic earlier. When I was at St. John's, Joe Panic used to hit at our place every day, right? Do a lot of BP to him, talk to him all the time. He was there every day. And after I forget, maybe 2009, I don't remember what year it was, 2013, something. Whenever the Giants won the World Series and he was in it, he came back and he was hanging out at our place and said, hey, man, who's the toughest guy you had to face in the show? And he talked about Wade Davis. Wade Davis is right-hander, Joe's left-hander. For those of you that don't know Joe, Joe's like, short to the ball, contact-oriented, not a lot of juice, really good bat-to-ball guy, really good demeanor. So why Wade Davis? He said, because he threw this cutter up on my hands, and it was the only pitch I couldn't recognize. He said, I know what my weaknesses are, and I know if I can recognize it and I can see it, I just don't swing. But I can never tell with Wade Davis, so I'd always swing. To me, talk about knowing your weaknesses as a pitch caller, right? If you know what your weakness is and you just spit on it all the time, I don't know that it's your weakness because you don't look bad on it. And a lot of times, as pitch callers, we're too chicken shit to throw something because we think you're going to miss. We think we're going to miss. But if I don't know that that's your weakness, I ain't calling it. Does that make sense? So I think where you get into trouble is when you see a guy that tries to hit something constantly, leaves the zone on something constantly, and that's how you know, like, jugular him. He can't see a changeup, feed him changeups all day. He can't get above the fastball, feed it to him all day, But the guy that doesn't chase at that, the guy that doesn't offer at that, man, that guy gives me fits. I hate that guy because I don't know what he's on, So I would say as a pitch caller, if you got a weakness, don't swing at it.
Yeah, and then from there you figure out what the pitcher on the mound does well. Like I need to know what he does well and what the shape of that is because I know that if he gets into a pinch, what's he going to do? He's going to go to that most often, or that's what he's going to do, right? So if I can prepare my guys in that manner, they shouldn't be surprised. And then it's just training. Did I do a good enough job equipping them? Again, making their tool belt full by how we went about our training over time. Did I do a good enough job training them right?
And I know we're going to go on. I'm sorry. But there's another important piece that's super valuable, right? Mayor Ramirez is the goat at this, right? If you're on a certain pitch, right? And, like, let's say you're sitting breaking ball with 2 strikes, right? And the guy throws a middle cock shot. As coaches, you can't get mad at the guy if he doesn't swing. You got to be okay with it. Hey, what were you on? I was on breaking ball. All right, bro, get him next time, whatever. And you got to stay consistent to that. Because the second you jump his ass, because he let a middle fastball go by, you lost the room. You have no trust. That's huge. If you want to have a culture of being on time, having a plan, well, then you better die on that ship of the plan. Period. The second that your players lose you, is you're like, hey, you told me to have a plan, and then I had the plan, and he gave me something different, now you're on my ass. Well, you're on your ass because you're transactional. You're on your ass because you can't see through the blinders. But if you're trying to win the game, you're playing the big percentages. And yeah, maybe you didn't get that bat runner scoring position in the 5th, but maybe you stayed that plan and they didn't know that you were on it, and they gave you the cookie in the 8th. 2-run double, you win. No one cares. You know what I mean? So you have to look at it from that perspective and understand. And that's why it's so valuable to have everybody in the room on the same. We don't give scouting reports just hitters and just pitchers. We give them together every time. Every time. Because
there's no surprises.
Yeah, I want the pitchers to know what our hitters are trying to do, and I want our hitters to know what we're trying to do. Hey, who's not beating us today? This guy ain't beating us today. So that way, if we let that guy beat us, he's getting heckled by everybody. We have one rule: don't let that guy beat us. He beat us. Why do you let him beat us? You got to be in it together, and everybody has to die on the ship. Otherwise, you don't have it. Sorry, we gotta go.
Guys, clap it up and wait for us. Please. Thank you, bro. Guys, I'm sure you'll see these guys rolling around the convention over there in a weekend. Real quick, if everybody, just on your phone, if you could just pull out your phone and your notes, just write down booth 1331, 1331. Anybody that's here, when you're in the convention, you don't have to look around. You can stop by Honeysinger, there was 1331, and grab yourself a care package to go send back to your address, okay? Hook those guys up. Guys, we're going to move right along here. After, I'm going to introduce a little concept to you guys. And then we're going to have also Bobby, Chris, and Nate Headley come up and give some insight on some things too. But I think it'll be a pretty interesting concept for a lot of you guys in here that work with hitters in facilities, that work on mechanical stuff, and maybe also guys that are coaching guys on the field. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about is something that I've been learning for about the past 2 years. Okay, and I put a lot of research in. It's called motor preferences. Okay, and I'll give you a quick background on it, just so to give you the basics of what the whole concept is and why there's such. It answered a lot of questions for me as to why certain hitters and certain pitchers, when I would give them mechanical adjustments or drills, some of them would look real comfortable doing it, and other guys would look way out of whack, right? And so the concept of it, basically, it came from this movement guys. They're called Volodin. They do research in Switzerland. Volodin. Volodalen, okay? They did research on 60,000 players, right? Excuse me, athletes in all different sports. They're not baseball guys. They are movement guys. And they got 30 different scientific publications based on what different preferences different people have, humans in general. So I had a kid. The reason why I got into it, there's a kid I hit with. His name's Josh Palacios. He has a brother named Richie Palacios. They're from my neighborhood in Brooklyn. They grew up 10 minutes away from my house. And from the time they were in college, and Richie was at Towson, he had hitting coach over there at school, right? Josh got drafted out of Brooklyn out of high school in the 18th round, said, I'm better than that. Went to San Jack, right? Got drafted, got offered again in the 8th round and turned it down again, said, I'm better than that. Went to Auburn. Each one of these places had a different hitting coach, right? Each one of these guys had different feels and different drills for him that were trying to get him to move better based on what they were looking at. He's now 28. He was 28 years old last year, and he grinded his way through the minor leagues, but at every level of the minor leagues, single A, double A, triple A, another hitting coach, another guy trying to basically make him move differently. So what happened was he became this collaboration, this collection of all these different feels from all these coaches. And we basically got to a point where he said, look, there's only a couple of things, because he was in AAA going up and down to the big leagues, then he would go back down. And he'd be like, you're just going to be an up and down guy and then leave. It's either maybe go to Japan and get a bag in Japan, maybe get $2 million. If you're a current big leaguer, they'll pay you $2 million, just get some money. And if you do well, you can go back to the show. But we got to do something different, because in the minor leagues, hit 275, 280 hitter, never hit more than 8 home runs a year, right? Maybe get an opportunity, but those aren't the guys that, when they get called up to the show, that stay there, right? Got to hit 20, 30 homers, right? 20, 25 homers or whatever, even if they look for the OPS guys and the slugging guys now. So bottom line is, my friend Matt Swope, who's a coach at University of Maryland, he turned me on to this whole entire research about the research that these guys did. And I started to study it. And I told Josh, I said, we should go and try to get a motor preference assessment and as a last-ditch effort. It's pretty expensive, right? There's some big leaguers that are doing this right now are paying $10,000 a piece to do the assessment, okay? But I'll give you guys the general concepts of what it is and why there's so much confusion in the hitting world when guys like, we'll get into that later. But basically, here's the concept. There's 2 different types of human beings, and this is the stuff that they did the research on. Half of the human race, right, prefers to balance in their heels, and the other half of the human race prefers to balance in the balls of their feet. okay? The guys that prefer to balance in the balls of their feet and they like to prefer to be an extension and they have tall setups, Cody Bellinger, these type of dudes, those guys are classified as aerials, okay? The guys that prefer to be in their heels and prefer flexion in their legs, right? Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, they are terrestrials. Prefer to be in their heels, they move from the ground upward, okay? The aerial guys, think of Ken Griffey Jr., think of Barry Bonds. Up extension, they're top-down movers, okay? So they prefer to start their sequence and swing their foot down from the top downwards. More shoulder-dominant swings. Think about Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, they have more shoulder-dominant. The terrestrial guys, right, that move from the ground up, they use the ground more, okay? Now, Josh Palacios is an aerial. He's a marked aerial, a guy that really likes to be in the balls of his feet. You can see it easily when you do the assessments. For me, I'm an aerial, right? My first move when I walk forward will always be my shoulders will lead and I'll go this way. Watch it again. So I stand from here. I want to walk that way. My shoulders always go first and I prefer to be like this way. Terrestrials, more in the heels of their feet. They prefer flexion. Every single one of people every person in this room is either one or the other, okay? The other guys, they prefer flexion. They look more with their heads up and you'll see them more in their heels. Catchers, they did research on about 70% of catchers are terrestrials. They look real comfortable in that position with their heels. I don't, right? So there are certain things that put you in or out of your comfort zone. I just want to give you guys a couple of details because there's so much information on it, but I'll give you a reason why. If you train everybody the same way with any foundational drills, about half of them are going to have some success and the other half aren't. And let me just explain to you what a motor preference is, just so you guys get an idea. Ronnie, come over here for a sec. I'll choose this guy's little volunteer. My boy Ronnie Burnick from Hot Corner Buffalo, all right? So, guys, real quick. Everybody, he's already doing it. Cross your arms real quick. Everybody cross your arms, right? Relatively easy to do? Yep, easy. Okay, now cross them the other way real quick. Feel weird? Brain had to think. You can do it, right? You can obviously do it. Cross your arms real quick. So he goes left over right. Look at me. I go right over left. That's a preference, okay? Now, here's what the hitting world and the training world has been doing for the past 20 years, okay? I am a arm cross coach. I'm an arm cross champion coach. I teach guys to cross their arms the most smoothest and fluid that you could ever see. And I just had the last arm crossing coach champion, okay? Ronnie Burnick comes in to train with me, right? I'm gonna make him into a world-class champion arm crosser, okay? So I look at him and I go, okay, pretty good, try it again. Go ahead. Hey, not bad. You went right over left? Now go the other way? Okay. Which one took your brain more power to do? Right over left. Right, so you're out of your preference. So he crosses left over right, but the last guy that I worked with that was an arm crossing champion, he went right over left. So I tell him, I'm gonna train you to do it right over left. The problem is when you do that and you take him out of preference, it's not that he can't do it. And you can actually acquire skill. You can get better at it. The problem is it will never, if we train even for 10 years, doing it the other way, when you have natural preferences that you do, it will never catch up. You righty or lefty? You write with your right or left hand?
I write my right. I throw left.
So you write with your right hand though. Why don't we train you to write with your left hand? Yeah. We could, if we spent 10 years trying to get him to write it with his left hand, he could probably do it legibly, but it will never ever be as smooth as when he does it with his right hand. Brain spends way less energy when you're in your motor preference, which also means I'm having more fun because my brain is not working as hard. When we put guys in crazy positions and do certain drills that take them out of their preference, we force them to make their brain work harder. The game is less fun, they're more frustrated, they don't perform as well, okay? So I'll give you a couple of things that you can kind of identify these things with and why I was training with these guys, that the guys, he's in the big leagues now, but I was training him out of his preferences, taking suggestions from his professional hitting coaches. I was taking their suggestions, right? So I'll give you a quick example. So go over there, Ronnie. Every human being in the world has a flexion leg and has an extension leg. Every one of us. They're not all the same, okay? My extension leg, everybody's has my extension leg goes up and down, makes me go up and down. My flexion leg, your flexion leg will always be slightly pointed outward. Nobody in the world walks with both of their feet completely straight. So when I walk straight, right, when I walk towards you, right, you see my right foot slightly pointed out. That's my flexion leg, flexion. The other one is extension. So let's check out Ronnie real quick. If he walks, this is a big point of identifying. Go ahead. Your extension leg's your left leg.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so when this guy goes to walk up steps, right? Anybody here? You got stairs in your house? Every single time you walk upstairs, you will always use your extension leg. You will always do it. You will always push off the same one. I have a left extension leg. I will always push it. My brain won't think. I will have to actually think about putting my right leg up, and it's going to feel weird as fuck, right? So going further, why is this important, right? Why is this important? Because I'll give you a quick example just to show you, because I'm going to give you guys, if you like the idea of this and want to get more into the details, I'm going to send you to the guy at the convention, and you can go more in depth with it. But just understand what we're doing here and why the different hitting coaches fight. The guys that work on ground up stuff and the guy that work on top down stuff, why they're fighting. Nobody's right and nobody's wrong. The problem is 50% of the human race is one way and the other 50%. So if I'm training a top down mover to move from the ground up, which was Josh Palacios, right? He's going to be frustrated. And all that happens is that when you're in the game, we talked about arm crossing, we can force any position we want. What's going to happen in game when I try to perform, my brain, I'm going to fight, my body's going to fight to get back to my natural preference and then go, which will cause a slight pause, right? Which is not good. So, real quick. So, Ronnie here, we don't know if he's an aerial or terrestrial, but we can kind of find out a little bit. So, I would put him kind of 50-50 in the balls of his feet, right? And kind of have him be an extension, almost like there's a string from here coming up out of his head, right? So, a little bit forward, right? And just stay there for a second, right? Pretty strong, pretty sturdy, right? Now, if he prefers being in his heels, let's go flexion your legs, heels, put your arms a little back, arms down, back a little bit, right? You're in flexion now. More flexion here, right? No stability. Definitely do not want to be set up. Optimal setup would not be for him there. Now, once I figure out if he does prefer to balance in his heels or he prefers to balance in the balls of his feet, we have to figure out what point in his foot actually is his most optimal balance point. Every single one of you guys in here has a number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. It's a move dial, okay? So for him personally, we know he likes to be in the balls of his feet, and he doesn't prefer to be in his heels. He doesn't have the most balance and coordination. What we're talking about here is balance and coordination. We're not talking about mechanics. So the way that, say, Driveline does it, I'll just use them as an example, and they do good with their systems, whatever systems they have. The way that everybody has done it is we test the metrics, right? Here's this, I swung a bat, right? I got a bunch of suction cups all over me like I'm doing EA Sports and Madden, right? And then they show me what the swing produced. This was the force. This was the spat speed. This is this, right? But they don't ever tell you how the move happened. They just basically give you the readout. This is what you did. This is the numbers it brought out. Nobody here can tell us how it happened. Because why? It's an invisible process that happens, right? If I go like this and say, hey, grab these keys, looks pretty simple, right? That's like one of the most complex moves that you could possibly think of. It's just nobody can tell you how it happened. If anybody could say how my brain told my central nervous system to move my hand, my shoulder to my finger to open it up and how my vision worked, it's an invisible process. So what we're talking about here is how do I get my players to be in the most balanced and coordinated position? This is not mechanics. When you see that little skeleton, right, that they show you, that's just a structure. It's a bone structure. It has nothing to do with balance and coordination. That's a totally different thing, right? So with Ronnie here, we'll say put a little bit of pressure on the left ball of your foot, right? And just leave your arms down, more an extension, prefer to be an extension, right? Solid, okay? Now I know from doing this a while that his worst balance point is gonna be in his left heel, okay? The worst. He should stay away from that. We'll go. So try to go into your left heel, right? In that point, he's going to have no stability in this position. What does that mean when we coach the training? Is that if I know a guy prefers to be in the balls of his feet and I do a fuck ton of heel connection drills with him, which is what I did with Josh Palacios, because his organization had him saying, hey man, we need to do no stride drills, both heels in the ground, and just work on your bat path. Well, basically what you're doing is forcing him out of his preference, right? He prefers to be in the ball of his feet, and when he would do it, his swing would get mad long, and you'd be front toss, and the guy's like swinging and clipping balls in front toss on angle. Easy drill, pro hitter. Why are you swinging missing? But another guy that's the terrestrial prefers to be in his heels, man, that guy's gonna feel electric. I like this position, right? But it's just identifying if the guy likes to be in the balls of his feet or in his heels, okay? So the other thing we would say with Ronnie here is everybody has another preference. Do I like to see vertical lines or I'd like to see horizontal lines? There's a million of these. I can't go into all of them, but I just want to make sure, I want you guys to know that it's a real thing. So let's see, if he puts his arms vertical here, let's just go vertical here. And you're going to go to your number one, right? And all you're going to think about is the vertical line on that sign right there. Just go vertical, all right? You're in your number one, which is your left forefoot, okay? Solid. Just vertical line, right? Now, go horizontal. All I want you to think is the top, that white thing, horizontal. Think just horizontal. You're still in the ball of your feet. Just think horizontal, okay? Look at that. No stability, no balance, no coordination. Now, how does this apply to what we're doing? That a guy prefers to see vertical lines or he prefers to be in horizontal lines, right? Let's go with hands close to you, straight up. See if you like your hands closer to your body, right? You're still in your number one. So this is, let's see if he likes his hands close to his body. His arms, his arms. Strong as hell, right? Now, let's put your arms a little bit away from your body, all right? Just like there. Same thing with the feet, number one. No stability, right? So what does this mean? It means Albert Pujols, large, right? Likes his arms away from his body. Alex Bregman, close. Marcus Semien, super close, right? Now you start getting into horizontal and vertical lines, right? Josh Palacios, we'll go back to him and his process with the Blue Jays and go to the minor league system. Somebody told him that he needs to retract his arm to go around his scap. He needs to get his elbow up and go back around his scap and stretch and do hip and shoulder separation drills, right? Problem is, he was vertical. He was an aerial that preferred vertical lines and he liked his arm close to his body. So now, when you watch the video, he's here and he's trying to do this move of pulling his scap back, which is totally unnecessary, puts him out of his motor preference, right? Makes his brain work harder. Not saying he can't do it. You can hit however you want to hit. Your body's, and the human body's great, you can adapt. The problem is, when you force your brain to work harder, everything becomes more difficult, right? So, put him in his setup, Ronald Acuna, both arms pinned down, right? Christian Yelich, both arms pinned down, Rizzo, right? So a lot of guys, when we talk about exploring and trying to mimic big league hitters, it's great as long as we're in our own preferences, right? And so one of the things that I think that, guys fight about, and this was a big one too, the extension and flexion leg, the big one. I want to go back to that for a second. If his extension leg is his left leg, which Josh Palacios had a right flexion leg and a left extension leg. So he could be strong in this one, but he was in his extension leg, he preferred to be upright. But his coaches were telling him, when you swing a bat at contact, when your shot foot touches down, I want you to push back on your front side and be like this at contact. Straighten it out. His flexion leg. So he would do that, change up, slider, swing right over top of it every time he's trying to push back, swing over top of it. Frustrating, right? The biggest adjustment we made with the motor preferences for him was when you see a breaking ball, if I'm looking heater and I see breaking ball, use your flexion leg. Bend through it. you can bend. Everybody wants to see from the looks of it, this perfect swing at contact. Wow, that looks strong. It's a strong position. But he wasn't strongest that way. When he saw a slider, he would bend through because he can use his flexion leg to get to that pitch and still keep going. Not everybody is as good, as efficient doing that.
That's legit. You say that because your buddy from Novice right here,
Yeah.
he played with my best friend in pro ball, and it's Chris Herman. And so, like, Chris just won the 81 American Association Player of the Year. Like, he won the MVP, and he was one of the first pro hitters I ever worked with that paid me for my time, and just wanted to keep up, no different than what we're doing right here. And Chris Herman, that played with, I don't know, he played for 4 different teams, A's, I think we went to the playoffs with the Diamondbacks a year. He had 11 tanks at like 180 average though, but same thing. He was being torn in all these different directions and just wanted to get better at his craft, right? He's still playing, just won MVP, had like 10 homers in a week and a half last year. And it's like his front foot has to be flexion. Like it has to be flexion, and if it's not, he struggles. And every time he would get too long with his front side, it looked like, Chris, he played guitar, he could hit, home runs at the MLB level, right? Like our whole life we knew he was going to the league. He goes straight to, more doing what he wants to do, right, in the American Association. And I think, boom, that's when it's like he makes, professional pitching, whatever level it is, it's not all the way at the top anymore, but it's his first year down, and he treats it like T-ball. It's like everything that he hit was over the fence, but no one's tearing him.
Well, he's probably more in his balanced and coordinated position, right? And so if you think about, as opposed to what you're saying, if we study too much of looks, and you're looking, says this is what a lot of even strength and conditioning coaches over the last 20 years have done, is they try to take asymmetrical things and make them symmetrical. Oh, he doesn't have this much internal rotation or on his hip, on his left side, he's got more than this way. Let's make him symmetrical. But some of our asymmetries actually is what make us perform better. So going further, I don't want to keep going into this like crazy, but because I want Bobby to go talk next. But let me just give you guys the last piece of this so that you guys know where to go. Tomorrow, if you guys want to hear the top guy talk about how kind of some of this stuff goes and how you could assess some of you guys and identify these little preferences, his name's David Genest. He's going to be at the Pro Velocity Bat booth at 1 p.m. tomorrow. So another thing you guys can do if you want to hook back up, 1 p.m. tomorrow, Friday, Pro Velocity Bat booth. And he will also be at 11 a.m. on Saturday, again, back at the Honey Stinger booth. So we just want to give you guys a bunch of information. If you like that stuff, you want to hear about it more, we'll give you to the other guys that can pass it off. I'll just tell you, it's been eye-opening for me. The players that I had that have done it, so far I've done it with 4 big leagues. I saw Tommy Pham do it. I saw Lamont Wade Jr. do the assessment, and both of those guys had pretty good years. Lamont Wade Jr. is probably the only leadoff first baseman I've seen. He's electric, right? Jack Sawinski just did it for the Pittsburgh Pirates, their cleanup hitter. And the 2 Palacios brothers. So that kid, Josh Palacios, that actually I've been training for 10 years, we changed nothing else other than did his assessment and get him into his most balanced and coordinated positions. He hit 10 homers in 80 games, so he would have hit over 20 if he played a full season. He was projected to. Hit a ball 466 feet, which is 30 feet further, in the show, 30 feet or 40 feet further than he's ever hit. Personal best there, personal best on bat speed. And so it was undeniable for me that putting guys back into their natural preferences is actually more beneficial. But let's keep it moving. Does anybody have any questions on that whole concept or anything like that?
Is Guinness
Genest. It's called Motor Preference Experts if you want to check them out online. It's some stuff that you can look at. You can go to a certification clinic. Yeah, you can go to a certification clinic if you want and go learn more about it and be able to identify and assess your guys. But let's keep it moving, guys. The next guy we have up is, are we going Bobby Big Leagues? Guys, Pelotero is one of the apps that's actually sponsoring this event. I'm going to let Bobby, who is my good friend here, go over some things with you. He's got some electric stuff here, guys, so just hang in there.